Thank you very much, and welcome back to the session 2, we call it. I also understand this is the last session for today. We have heard about some of the democratic challenges from the different countries. In particular, we heard a lot about how elections are not working and issues related to election integrity. If this is the situation broadly in Asia and beyond, what should our response and strategy be for Asian democracy? So I also wanted to remind the panel that, we have challenges for democracy, but what is our response and strategy to promote and pursue democracy? So I have a very, well-experienced panel here with me. On my right, we have Mustain Billah. He's actually, he's done many things, but presently he's in the Constitutional Review Committee, and he will tell us updates on Bangladesh and some strategies moving forward. We have Fides Bagaso. She will join us online, and she's long-time, grassroots organizer, both in the urban and rural side. So we'll have a perspective from the grassroots from the Philippines. We have Deepak Prasad Bashar, who's, essentially a youth mobilizer for a very long time. And we will hear from him what's happening, in terms of the latest democracy movement or situation in Nepal, and what are some of his thoughts moving forward. Last but not least, we have Wayne Yu Nin So, who will, give us an insight into what has been happening in the so-called democracy movement in the last 4 years in Myanmar, and what really needs to be done next if we want to improve the situation. She's based here in Korea, and she is part of the Youth Action for Myanmar network. And in particular, she will have some ideas about suggestions of what the National Unity Government can do to take things forward. So without further ado, I want to turn first, in the order that's programmed, to invite Mustain to give us an insight into what's happening in Bangladesh. Over to you.
Thank you. Can I have the presentation on the screen? All right. So just to give few facts so that you can better relate, or I can put Bangladesh in perspective. It is actually the world's 8th populous country. We have over 180 million people. And the majority of the people are actually young. And as we were discussing democracy, elections, in Bangladesh, in the last 3 elections, especially the young generation could not vote. And even we had very weak but functioning electoral democracy. Under the previous regime, she destroyed the electoral system and grabbed the power. And that is the backdrop of this monsoon revolution. And especially those who could not vote for the last 3 consecutive elections, their age is between 18 to 35. So that you can understand, a large majority of the young people could not vote in their lifetime, and they did not have their democratic voice, and the state was denying and depriving the most fundamental rights of a citizen in the modern country. And the monsoon revolution started back in July with a quota reform movement. And in the screen, you can see a boy standing tall, spreading the hands, and he was basically standing in front of the firing line. His name is Abu Said, who was this university student. Despite knowing that he could be killed, but he actually stood very firm. And immediately he was shot dead, and his image actually spread all over the social media. And because of this, he was the first martyr of this July uprising and the revolution. Instantly, the entire nation got shocked, but it galvanized a massive popular movement in Bangladesh that eventually toppled down 15 years of fascist rule. How that happened is a long story, but I will try to be very brief. As I mentioned, electoral democracy was not functioning, power is grabbed by the fascist rule, and people were yearning for a democracy. And in the last January, we had another physical election that did not allow us to exercise our voting rights and to have an elected government. And in the backdrop of that, I would like to remind you that Professor Dr. Yunus, who is now the head of the interim government, back then he was in Paris, and he was basically overseeing the Paris Olympic, where the world youth was showing their excellence in sports. But the Bangladeshi youth was trying to fight back a fascist regime in order to gain back their human rights and democracy, which has changed the history of Bangladesh, and we are in a new path. Bangladesh was founded in 1971 with a promise to deliver equality, human dignity, and social justice. In the last 5 decades, our government could not actually materialize that, and Bangladesh was striving to establish these 3 principles. And the brutality, the human rights abuse, enforced disappearances, extrajudicial killings, fabricated cases, there are many such things, and massive corruption. Estimated more than $100 billion had been siphoned away from Bangladesh by the cronies of the previous regime. These are the young heroes who led this glorious monsoon revolution. And as I mentioned, it started as a movement against a discriminatory public service quota system. One surprising thing, we had seen many uprisings, we had seen many movements in Bangladesh, but never before in Bangladesh we had witnessed 2 things. Mobilizing military, paramilitary, entire security force, imposing curfew, and ordering shoot at sight, as if the country was invaded by a foreign force. And not only that, this time around, just to shoot down the protester, the government used even the helicopter, military helicopter. That is unprecedented in the history of Bangladesh. And they did not just kill the protester, they killed the women, the children. According to UNICEF, it's more than 45 children were killed. This is a sequence of the event, mostly the important events, and I will come back to this. As I said, during this monstrous killing mission, at one point, the government actually not only just imposed curfew, actually cut off the internet, and the country was actually put into complete blackout. We were disconnected with the outside world. Only the outside world came to know about Bangladesh through the students, expatriates, and we had no other way to communicate with the world. And I would like to talk about the language of this resistance, and as we all now see that we are calling it monsoon revolution. Monsoon is a very unusual time in Bangladesh and a very unique season because we have heavy rain. And that is not a season when we have political activities like demonstrations and movement. But this time it was distinctive. And this time we had this massive overflow and flooding of the people across the city on the 4th, while the students actually called for march to Dhaka city. On 5th, Dhaka was actually flooded by the people. Normally, we are flooded by water during the monsoon season. And this is also important to say why we call it monsoon revolution, because with this revolution, we have washed away 15 years of repressive regime and a monstrous killing operations. And while the regime was killing, the massacre that started in 15th July, we were resisting and protesting and demonstrating. Even after July, when it was 1st August, the students and the people said that our July will continue as long as we do not achieve our victory and freedom. And that is where this language was invented. We said 31st, 32nd, 33rd, 34th, and 36th July. The 36th July was an innovation of language and new imagination of time that as long as our struggle continues, our July will never end. And after this revelations on the 5th, we felt like we are again liberated. And that's why we call it our second liberation from oppressive regime, a fascist rule that actually destroyed the country and institutions. And now a new government led by Nobel laureate Professor Yunus took over, and he is heading an interim government. They have taken some very important reform initiatives. From this revolution, we have basically three demands. One is the justice, another one is accountability, and the third is reforms. These are the three main things that are being initiated and presided over by this government. And the success of a new democratic era for Bangladesh very much depend on this. And I urge the audience and the civil society members and friends here to stand by this government so that the government is successful in navigating Bangladesh to a new future from where we can have a new democratic beginning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mastin. That was very good opening and giving us an update on what's happening in Bangladesh. I think as you were speaking, a couple of things struck me. One was the increasing, and this was a theme also from the earlier panel, the role of youths. And I think one of the things to look out for is also the collapse of the universities. If we look at projected numbers around the world, from Thailand to Bangladesh and also elsewhere, let me just throw up a number, because I have three friends from Thailand here. By 2030, 75% of universities in Thailand, both public and private, are at the risk of closure. In South Korea, by 2045, more than 50% of the universities are at risk of closure, which means youth will be affected by a disconnect with higher education. And you correctly pointed out 13 million unemployed. Yeah, and the frustration of, being able to be properly skilled for the new economy and also generating income in an environment of high cost living. So youth really are a driver of democracy as more and more of their needs are not met. And it was great the way you ended saying that you are pressing for reform, and you yourself on the Constitutional Reform Committee.
Yes.
Maybe you can say something a little bit about that before I pass the time to the next person.
Thank you. The revolution that was led by the youths, the average age is around 25. So you can understand, it was basically university students, college students, even the school students joined in these demonstrations. It was over at least 5 million people that directly took part in these demonstrations and revolutions. As I said, Bangladesh is a big populous country, 180 million people. Half of them are actually the young and youth. And employment, their role and their voice in the system of governments and state building is very critical. And the reason they were deprived of their rights and deprived of the opportunity and good job actually fueled these revolutions. And now, this time around, they have taken charge. 3 of the important leaders have joined this government, and they have formed few important initiatives. One is making constitutions, reforming the constitution, because the previous constitution failed us miserably. It could not protect our rights and could not guarantee the human rights and democracy. So we are now looking forward to a new constitution which will guarantee our rights and which will set Bangladesh into a new pathway.
Thank you. Thank you for being on point on the issue of reform. Next, we will go online. We have our next colleague, Fides, who's a grassroots organization, is drawing online. Just also to give you a heads up, the internet may not be stable, so I ask for your patience. So Fides, the floor is yours. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you. A little bit soft, maybe that's a volume control, but yeah, please go ahead.
Good afternoon. Annyeong hasimika. Cholon Fides Bagasao. And the title of my presentation is Tradition, Continuity, and Crisis, and grassroots organizations' struggle for democracy is also a solidarity with Asia. I will go right away to the response. How do we what will be our response to the challenges of democracy? I think the first is the hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Thank you. The first, I think, is our national hero Jose Rizal said, as shown by history, is that the hope of the fatherland is the youth. So I think that's the first message. The second is our solidarity with other sectors, because I am coming from the urban grassroots organizations for the past 40, 50 years, because I'm already 71, and I started when I was 20. And our lesson is, in the Philippines, is actually in solidarity also with our Asian neighbors. You know that the first community organizing of grassroots organization was spearheaded by Pastor Park Hyung-kyu, who I think became the first chair of the Korea Democracy Foundation. So I think that is a link of urban grassroots organizing to Korean democratic movement as well, because he's also one of the pioneers during the repressive regimes in Korea. The program that Seoul started was shared to different countries. This was Seoul first did the first community organizing program in 1971, and then the Seoul Metropolitan Community Organizing, led by Park Hyung-kyu, Moksan-him, shared the trainers and the training, which is influenced by the activists who organized in the Black communities of Chicago, Saul Alinsky. So I think some of you have heard of this. And also this organizing was influenced by the Brazilian educator, Paulo Freire, which used the concept of consciousness raising, which means that it used an action first and then a reflection. So these are the three tools used by the organizing of the grassroots organization, shared and trained first by Seoul Metropolitan CO program, and then shared with Manila, and then shared with the other countries like Thailand, Hong Kong, Indonesia, India, also Pakistan. And recently, maybe in the after Cambodia war, Cambodia also started, and also now Burma also being supported by, first was a regional network. I think that's the first important response, is that there is the solidarity with the regional network. So this was the first, in the first generation, the Asian Community and People's Organization, which shared this urban organizing among countries in Asia. So we have already a tradition since the repressive regimes in the 60s that continued for the next maybe decades. Maybe there is a gap in some, but it comes back and comes back and forth. And I will go to the end to already give a conclusion. Then I'll go back to the middle because I think really the lesson for the past 6 years is this. So this is the conclusion. I will go back to what was the lesson. Metro Manila's urban informal settlers is just one grassroots organization during the martial law. They fought for their right to the city. They marched, and the community was repressed right after arrest, detention, and some disappearances. And of course, martial law was prevailing at the time. So the message is the struggle of urban settlers in Metro Manila under repressive martial law and last 60 years. I'm sorry. Is the struggle for democratic space. Oh, I'm sorry. It's a continuous struggle for democratic space, democracy in solidarity with pro-poor, pro-democracy coalitions movements in the Philippines and fellow Asians and the international community. For instance, like the second generation of Asian organizers and leaders, the leaders and organizers of community organizations of Asia, where our countries are members, who are organizing advocating for right to the city, preserve the tradition of Asian solidarity among urban informal settlers, grassroots organizations, since first the ecumenical solidarity in the late 60s, led by the ACPO for democratic inclusive cities. This is the conclusion, the philosophical insight, which is also shared even way before the Asians heard of this French philosopher. We are also practicing what he wrote. This is, I think, the Henri Lefebvre, who also, maybe popularized the right to the city. The right to the city, which is what is being struggled for by urban informal settlers all over Asia and other parts of the world, because we are highly urbanized, almost maybe more than 60% of countries are already urbanized. The right to the city is not simply to be able to occupy, to inhabit, but to have a meaning, a connection, not to be excluded. Democracy is nothing other than struggle for democracy. The struggle for democracy is the movement itself. Many Democrats imagine that democracy is a type of stable condition toward which we must tend. No, democracy is the movement. And democracy is the struggle for democracy, which is say the very movement of social forces. And it is a permanent struggle. So I think that's really the concluding message is the theoretical or philosophical. And of course we see this as Trump won the last 48 hours and everybody's so shocked. Oh, my friends, we're back to the fascists, but and all that. Of course, we've heard of the other stories earlier of Bangladesh and our own martial law. I will share now the example of what an urban grassroots organization, which was shared. It's the influence by the first community organizing in Seoul and in other parts of Asia using the Alinsky and Freire, but we also customized along our own culture. And here in the Philippines, because majority is Catholic and Christian, then we also were influenced by the liberation theology, wherein the message of Jesus Christ is not only the salvation of of our eternal life, but also our our sharing with our neighbors and the improvement of the conditions of the poor, the homeless, the sick, the excluded. This is also the Christian liberation theology used by Philippine organizing. Why? Now I will give to the example of this defiance, which is the right to the city is also the right to democracy, fighting for democracy. Why? This Zoto is a network of urban poor neighborhoods, and they were being evicted and they were being thrown out of Manila because Marcos, then the dictator, wanted to use it for real estate, for the profit and commercial, and which was anti-poor and anti-democratic, who wanted to throw out everybody. So 5,000 Soto members, of course, they were organized under this organizing program, which was being done by different countries using the same methodology of organizing and mobilization. 5,000 members marched to the Malacanang, surrounded by all the military. And they demanded that they will stay in the city and they don't want to be thrown out. They wanted to be on site, improved condition there and maybe nearby. So their leaders met with the president, the dictator, and he approved this demand because of the protest of the 5,000 protesters of poor people there, maybe 100 meters away from the palace, surrounded by all the military with all the tanks. But after this approval, Marcos criminalized all squatters. It became a criminal. It is criminal to be a squatter, to be occupying any, and there were many arrests and military raids that followed disappearances. And this was the martial law mode in the Philippines for the next, after 1985, and then we had an election. So the lesson here is that historically, it's not only Zoto, this Zone 1 Tondo organization, but it is replicated, I think, whether it's in Korea, Thailand, Burma, and Indonesia, also Hong Kong. The informal urban grassroots organizations are in the ranks of the, anti-dictatorship, and they trooped to the 1986 EDSA People's Power, contributing also to the it was a civil military uprising. And this also helped in the fall of the Marcos downfall, of course, with all the allies, local and international. So, but Zoto was one of those in that ranks that faced the tanks, and the helicopter that threatened to bomb the millions of Filipinos who were there. So that we call that the EDSA People Power in 1986. So what happened in the next, then we went through several presidents. What are our lessons? Here are our lessons. Urban grassroots group formed within the sector, converged, and joined the anti-Protestant, anti-dictatorship, and they had strong coalitions. They formed with civil society, religious groups, and international networks. And I think very important here is that the community organizing groups continued to have a second generation. And now I think we're on the fourth generation of young organizers. And we continue our network with Korean community organizers. We continue every year. We share our lessons with our Asian fellow organizers for the last 60 years, and we celebrated our 60th founding I think in 2022 in Seoul, because it was also spearheaded by South Korea in the 70s. So we have policy victories that are pro-poor, but we have to continue for this democratic space, and then continuous advocacy. But also we have to fight, the authoritarian tendencies and the corruption through these years, for the past 60 years. So here are some of during the democratic space pro-poor programs. these are more bottom-up programs fought by the people, and it would take them like years to do it, to accomplish. So this is their advocacy using, Christian symbols. Of course, we all have our Muslim brothers and sisters in the South. So, but here is a more recent, is the Duterte, who just got, who just finished his term in 2022. But there was, during his State of the Nation, this was an anti-dictatorship and anti-drug war, because he's very authoritarian. He said he ordered the police that, let the addicts and the pushers fight you so that you can kill them. So this is all now being revealed in our congressional hearing. So even this president has now appeared in our congressional hearing. Therefore, at present, continuous community organizing with local NGOs, continue for in-city resettlement, protesting current anti-poor Marcos Jr. housing policies. They removed some of the pro-poor programs, which gave budget to the people and to the NGOs who are helping. But now it's more high-rise and affordable for poor people. The people are also helping in the electoral campaign for more pro-democratic, but also helping in the social media regarding all the advocacy against the fake news about how many were really killed in the anti-drug war. The government says 6,000, but human rights groups say 30,000, and also shared by Amnesty International.
Could you kindly maybe give us your last thoughts because time is up? Maybe you just sum it up for us.
I think I already gave you my conclusion earlier. So I thank you very much, and I think the only message is that the young, we have to continue the training and organizing and our solidarity with one another. And there is a tradition there. We don't have to start from zero. But the urban grassroots have a 60-year tradition fighting for the struggle, not only for the right to the city, but also for democracy. So thank you very much. Kamsahamnida. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. So there were two major points there. One is kind of the cross-border support and learning that was provided to the Philippines, grassroots mobilization from the 70s, and then special reference was made towards the support received from Korea. And secondly, how a tradition of mobilization has been, a practice in the Philippines. I think the question here is, and this was also mentioned in the panel before, are, these protests and mobilization effective? Obviously, in the Bangladesh case, it was effective because it was large. But if the protests and mobilizations are not large enough and can be snuffed out by, the authorities and government forces, then are they really effective? So with that, point made, I now turn to Deepak to give us a sense of what's happening in Nepal. Over to you.
Thank you, James. First of all, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Deepak. Before going to the topic, I want to introduce a little bit myself. I'm from Nepal. I am a youth activist. I'm not a researcher or academician, so don't expect so much things from my presentations. I go through like what I feel in the ground, what younger generation in Nepal, they feel about the democratization process and how they are disconnected currently, and then how we can reconnect with them. So these are the things I'm thinking from their perspective, from the young perspective from the Nepal. We have like 3 different phases of democratization process. Nepal is like 70 years of history of democratization process. First, it's in 1951. That was also led by the young people, especially the first 4 martyrs who lost their life during that process. One is just 18. And that was against the autocratic Rana rules. And after that, again, the first non-Rana prime minister was just 39. So that was the led by the young people. And then it is going on, and again, it comes like a partyless system in Nepal. Then in 1990, again it's people's movement first, we say, people movements first. We fought against the 30 years of journey, partyless systems. That was also led by the young peoples. But when the movement success, again that the older generations comes in the leadership, and then the younger generation was not that in the front when it comes in the leadership and all. And again, we fought in 1996 to 2006. It was a people's war. We called Maoist war. And then in 2000, that leads to the people's movement in 2006. There also like youth are the crucial in the front. And then that people's movement established the democratic federal Nepal. The 240 years long history monarchy was dissolved, and now we are in federal democratic Nepal. But where we lack is, like I found where we lack, we fail to preserve the history. We tell the struggle since the last 70 years, even before, because we don't have like museums and then the institutes who did the historical research and all. And I came here in 2012 as an intern in Merit Memorial Foundation. Then I realized that why it is important to preserve the history, share with the younger generations, and then how we can educate, how we can empower. That is lacking in the context of Nepal. I don't know, like I came here after 12 years, so what is the current situation here? I cannot say, but what I learned from there is that here is the gap, and then still we are facing the same gap in Nepal. Like we are not sharing the real struggle to connect or to reconnect the young people. There is a gap. We can say like intergenerational gap, or we are not sharing good proper informations, proper stories. So that's how these days younger people are completely disconnect with the politics, with the democratizing process. So that is a very, very, we can say like, this is not the good scenario. This is not the good scenario. And every day, as a very least developed country, every day, the recent data says every day 1,500 young people are going outside for the better opportunity. Every day. So my observation, my works, and directly working with the young people in ground, they said we should have like a proper information, proper knowledge or skills that how we can connect with the young people for the sustaining the democracy process, democratizing process. That is the correct scenario in the country.
Great, but before I let you go, I mean, you said a few interesting things about Nepal. If a lot of young people are going abroad from Nepal, when they go abroad, and again we heard this on the previous panel, as soon as they go abroad, are they disconnected from Nepal? Or is there still some kind of interest to contribute back? Because in different countries, you know, the youth, when they are forced to go abroad, some remain connected, some not. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you. They remain connected. They wanted to come back. They wanted to contribute. But the thing is, we are struggling from very long time political instability. Like recently elected, within 2 years, 2 different prime ministers we got. And then third highest party got the prime minister. One time from the first one time from support from the first one time support from the second one. So these are the things like people are disconnecting slowly, and they don't want to come back now. So still, who are in connection, maybe we can make them like proper informations, proper systems to come back. Maybe we can develop skills how they can come and how they can work in the countries. So yeah, they wanted to come back in our context.
Okay, great. That's a great segue to the next speaker, who is very much active, mobilizing Myanmar youth here in Korea. So lovely to have you. Let me begin by just inviting you to give us an update of what's happening in Myanmar in the last few years. Over to you.
네, 밍글라바, 미마말로 안녕하세요, 축복을 받으세요라는 인사말입니다. 네, 저는 오늘의 세션 2에서도 맨 마지막에 다들 힘드시죠? 네, 다들 미얀마는 지금 아직도 봄의혁명에 진행 중이어서 좀 힘드시더라도 조금은 참아가지고 20분도 안 넘을 테니까요. 좀 한쪽을 귀를 좀 기울여서 들어주신다면 대단히 감사하겠습니다. 네, 조금 길더라도 조금 정해진 시간 내에서도 마칠 테니까요. 조금 참아서 함께 해주신다면은 미얀마 봄의혁명에 큰 힘이 될 것 같습니다. 네, 그리고 제 발표하기 전에요. 먼저 말씀드리고 싶은 것은 저는 한국에 2009년도에 왔습니다. 그래서 제 나이를 세 개로 나눈다면은 3분의 1은 한국에 살고 있고요. 거의 미얀마에서 23살 정도에 왔으니까 절반 정도는 여기에 살고 있고 반반이라고 생각하시면 될 것 같습니다. 그만큼 한국도 저한테 모구만큼이나 소중하다는 말씀을 드리고 싶고요. 그리고 저는 이게 조금 3개월 후면은 미얀마가 봄의혁명이 4년이 되어갑니다. 그래서 그 4년 동안은 다시 우리가 고찰을 했을 때 우리가 무엇을 조심해야 되고 무엇을 지금 정신 바짝 차려야 되는지에 대한 임시정부를 향한 조언까지는 저는 아니고요. 좀 한번 좀 알아차렸으면 좋겠다라는 메시지를 드리고 싶습니다. 저는 이게 4년 동안의 거를 압축해서 이게 말씀드리다 보니까 약간 미얀마 역사에 대한 조금 배경 지식이 조금 필요하신 분들한테 말씀드리자면요. 미얀마는 1948년도에 한국이랑 비슷하게 독립을 했고요. 영국으로부터 독립을 하고 그때 앙산수지 여사님의 아버지 앙산 장군이 이끌어간 소수민족들과의 함께 연방 민주주의 국가로 함께 하겠다라는 벨로 협력을 하고 이렇게 꿈꾸었는데 앙산 장군이 암살당하고 그때 독립하는 동시에 2010년도까지는 군부 독재 나라 70년간의 내전 또는 엄청난 민족들이 함께 사는 나라인 만큼 수많은 문제들을 안고 살아왔던 사회입니다. 그렇지만 글로벌 시대에 맞게 2010년도에 문민 정부로 이제 이양이 되고 2010년도에서 현재 봄의혁명 쿠데타 일어나는 2021년까지 간의 10년간의 우리 흔히 말하는 MC 세대가 부분적인 민주주의라는 거를 맛보았던 세대가 지금 봄의혁명에 지금 중심에 선두고 있다라는 말씀을 드리고 싶습니다. 그리고 제가 말씀드리고 싶은 거는 1948년도 독립하고 2010년도까지 군사정권의 우리 그런 우물안 개구리라고도 표현을 하는데요. 그 사회에서 우리는 함께 살았고 10년간 부분적인 민주주의를 경험하고 드디어 2021년도에 군부 쿠데타가 일어났다 이렇게 알고 있으면 좋을 것 같습니다. 네, 발표를 시작하겠습니다. 시간이 많지 않아서 제 마지막 발표인 만큼 시간 조금 더 주시면 감사하겠습니다. 네. 좀 전에도 제 인사를 했는데요. 저는 한국도 제 모구만큼 소중하다라고 했는데 저는 지금 현재 살고 있는 나라는 두 개라고 말씀드리고 싶습니다. 하나는 대한민국이고 하나는 저의 모국 미얀마입니다. 대한민국은 현재 물리적인 몸이 살고 있고요. 미얀마는 마음으로 살고 있다고 할 수 있습니다. 한국은 눈부신 경제성장과 제도적 민주주의를 완성한 대한민국은 명실상부의 아시아 민주주의의 상징이자 미얀마 청년들에게도 희망적입니다. 하지만 한 명의 선거로가 또는 후자들에게 무소인이라고 부리는 이의 입에 휘청거리는 대한민국의 정치 최고 권력자의 배후에는 위임받지 않는 권력은 마구잡이로 휘두르면서 한국가의 사법부 시스템을 엉망으로 만들고 있지만 제어가 안 되는 국가에서 우리는 무엇을 배울 것인가 한번 생각을 해봐야 될 것 같습니다. 그리고 물소보위의 권력으로 군사 독재와는 또 다른 양태의 국가 권력을 여실히 보여주고 있는 검사 정권은 제가 지금 살고 있는 대한민국의 민주주의를 몇십 년 후퇴시켰다고 한국 미디어는 평하고 있습니다. 그리고 손바닥에 이 왕자를 너로 새기고 진짜 왕이 된 후에도 득기양양 어퍼해서 날리던 대통령 그가 국가를 어떤 방향으로 어떻게 끌고 가겠다라는 그런 비전도 없어 보이고요. 제 눈에는 준비도 없이 권력만을 쫓고 향유하려던 그의 그런 부하들이 무능은 우리 아시아를 넘어서 글로벌 전투 국가로 나아가겠다는 공언을 지금으로서는 조금 허언이 될 듯 싶다고 전언하고 싶습니다. 그렇지만은요, 이 위기를 넘기고 또는 극복하는 방법은 또한 지나가기만 하다라는 성숙한 민주주의의 체제로 가는 여정은 아닐까라는 그것 또한 생각해 봅니다. 그러면서 한편으로 드는 의문이 하나가 있습니다. 이게 민주주의 체제라는 것이 무지한 한 사람의 위선자로 인해서 한순간에 후퇴하고 무너질 정도로 무력한가 하는 것입니다. 민주주의 체제라는 국가 시스템의 일정 궤도에서 오르면은 외부에 큰 자극이 없다며 그 국가의 사회는 덜 있지만은 앞으로 전쟁할 것이라는 저의 믿음은 환상이 있고 또는 착각일까 이런 하는 생각도 잠시 해봤습니다. 물론 그로 따르는 무리한 집단들이 있어서 권력을 잡고 또는 일정 기간에 자신들의 이데올로기를 실현시키고 또는 국가 권력이라는 이름으로 간제하다 보면은 시행착오는 있을 수는 있겠다. 하지만은 국가사회 구성원들이 오랜 시간 동안 또는 피를 흐르고 성취하고 한미된 또는 민주주의라는 제도 내에서는 변화라는 대정체가 있다면 문제가 안 될 거라고 저는 생각해 봅니다. 다사다난하며 다이내믹하지만 이 나라는 제가 걱정할 정도는 아닌 것 같습니다. 네. 그리고 정말 이게 걱정해야 되는 거는 제 모국이죠. 우리나라 미얀마가 아주 걱정입니다. 그래서 선두에서도 말씀드렸던 것처럼 미얀마 군부 쿠데타는 2021년 2월 1일 날에 일어났죠. 그때 미얀마에서 군부 쿠데타가 일어나고 그러니까 어느 누구도 예상치 못한 이게 천조벽력과 같은 일이 벌어졌습니다. 21세기에 무슨 쿠데타야? 물론 옆에 태국에서도 빈번하게 일어난 것이지만은 그래도 부분적인 민주주의를 실행해가고 있는데 이렇게 생각했죠. 그런데 그것은 미얀마 군부에 대한 무지의 결과였고 미얀마 문민정부의 안위하기 짝이 없는 무능의 결과였음이 드러났습니다. 얼마 전에 아시아에 맞는 국가들의 모범국가라는 대한민국에서도 여전히 거론되고 있는 것이 군부 쿠데타라는 단어입니다. 그리고 하물며 여전히 헌법 위에 군림하던 미얀마 군부의 위세는 문민정부의 딜레마였습니다. 그러니까 그리고 군부 독재에 아까 70년간 우리는 내정 문제로 만났던 국가라고 소개를 했는데요. 그 70년의 향수를 잊지 못하는 그런 군부에게 미얀마 국가 권력은 고양이 앞에 있는 생선이었습니다. 또한 미얀마 군부 독재를 언제든 비호하면서 돌아설 수 있는 주변 국가들의 정세를 잊지 못한 것은 우리 국가 고문이 이끄는 문민정부의 최대 실책 중에 하나였지 않을까라는 생각도 해봅니다. 그래서 미얀마 문민정부는 너무나도 무력하게 권력을 뺏겼고 미얀마는 또다시 군부 독재의 과거로 돌아갔습니다. 지독한 그 70년의 군부 독재를 경험한 미얀마 시민들은 쿠데타 초기부터 CDM이라고 하거든요. 시민 불복종 운동 같은 공무원들이 비폭력 저항 운동을 정부적으로 전개했습니다. 그래서 민간인들의 희생이 커지면서 그 이후에는 저희 임시정부라고도 하는 또는 국민들이 지지를 받고 있는 국민통합정부 NUG라고 알고 있을 겁니다. 그 NUG는 우리 시민방위군이라는 People Defense Force라는 방위군을 결성하고 반군부 무장투쟁을 가열치게 하고 지금 이 시간까지도 하고 있습니다. 하지만 어떻게 해요? 이 민주행정이 거세지수로 돌아온 것은 쿠데타 군부의 무자비한 보복이었습니다. 정투기 공습으로 민간의 마을을 초토화시킨 것은 물론이고요. 그 다음에는 잔혹하고 무도한 집단 학살은 만행도 썸씀치 않았습니다. 쿠데타 발발 3년 10개월 좀 있으면 4년이 되어가고 있는데요. 그 4년 동안에 우리 무고한 시민들이 5,600명이 지금 사망을 하게 되었고요. 희생하게 되었고요. 그 다음에는 군부 쿠데타로 인해서 구금된 사람은 시민은 17,000명이 넘습니다. 그리고 구속영장이 발부된 사람은 2만 명이 넘습니다. 그뿐만 아니라 요즘에는 다들 반대하는 이런 거는 있어서는 안 되나라는 사형이 지금 167명이 지금 현재 이루고 있습니다. 그리고 그뿐만 아니라 이 삶의 터전을 잃고 피난길에 오른 피난민을 지금 현재 300만 명이 이루고 있습니다. 이런 것들은 쿠데타 이후에 우리가 전종 시전 상황이 장기화되면서 그 다음에는 농사를 집중하지 못하고 또는 전 국민의 3분의 1은 기아로 인해서 인도주의적 도움이 절실한 상황이라고 합니다. 더 심각한 것은요. 설상가상으로 지난 9월 10일이 지금 2달을 넘었죠. 지금까지도 복권이 잘 안 되어 있는 동남아시아를 강타한 슈퍼 태풍이 약이라는 게 있었습니다. 그걸로 인해서 미얀마 국민들은 더 비참한 상황으로 내몰고 있습니다. 하지만 그 비참함은 오롯이 국민들의 몫이라는 것이죠. 너무 안타까운 것입니다. 군부를 출주할 수 있다라는 믿음으로 미얀마 국민들의 압도적인 지지를 받으면서 출범한 것이 좀 전에 얘기했던 임시정부 또는 국민통합정부라는 NUG였습니다. 군부 타도와 또는 NUG의 승리를 외치면서 거리에서 또는 정글에서 숲에서 감호 등에서 피를 흘리고 고문을 당하고 싸우고 그렇게 수도 없이 죽어갔지만은 NUG는 이들의 희생자들에 대한 어떤 애도도 표현도 서명도 저는 본 적이 없는 것 같습니다. 그저 국가 고문의 생신날이 있으면은 진시민도 보이고 또는 윈민 대통령 등의 정치 지도자의 안위만을 거정하는 것 같습니다. 제 눈에는. 또한 쿠데타라는 사태로 불러온 것과 또 전 국민은 이토록 비참한 상황으로 내몬 결과에 대해서 진심으로 사과하거나 또는 책임을 통감하다라는 정치 지도자는 저는 아직까지도 본 적이 없습니다. 이렇게 4년이라는 이 긴 싸움 끝에 상처만이 가득한 미얀마 국민의 마음은 누군가는 위로해야 되고 보듬어줘야 하고 또는 지금으로서 이 NUG가 그 임시정부가 국민통합정부가 그 일을 해야 한다고 저는 생각합니다. 우리는 순위할 거다. 봄의 혁명 그날로 오리라. 이런 그 구호로서 희망 고문할 것이 아니라 이제부터라도 구체적인 그런 비전이라든가 또는 전략 그런 거를 제시하고 미래를 준비하면서 혁명의 마음을 다시금 모아야 한다고 저는 생각합니다. 마지막으로는요. 그래서 우리는 2021년 2월 1일 이후에 반쿠데타 미얀마 민주행정은 저는 스프링 리볼루션이라고 하죠. 봄의 혁명이라고 부르고 또는 그 이름에 대한 자긍심 또는 갖고 있습니다. 조금 미력하지만은 오늘도 우리는 군부의 폭력에 맞서 지금 이 순간에서도 싸우고 있습니다. 우리에게는 우리가 있다라는 외치면서 싸우고 있습니다. 그렇게 한 사람의 생명이라도 소중히 생각하고 그것을 지켜주고 서로 지켜주지 못해 쓰러져간 이름 없는 수많은 희생자들에게 머리 숙여 사죄하는 것 또는 그것이 봄의 혁명의 시작이고 완성이라고 저는 생각합니다. 그리고 진정한 미얀마 민주주의 그 태동은 아닐까라는 그런 생각도 해보았습니다. 여기까지 발표한 거는요. 저의 개인적인 견해이고 제가 생각하고 안타깝고 이랬으면 좋겠다라는 바라는 마음이라는 것을 여기 함께 들어주시는 분들께 말씀드리고 싶습니다. 좀 빨리 진행했는데 시간이 모자랄까 봐 좀 빠르게 진행을 했다면은 좀 양해를 해주시면 감사하겠습니다. 이상입니다.
Thank you very much, and thank you for keeping time. We are now open for questions, but I will let you warm up. And I have a question each for the speakers. So let me begin with my colleague from Bangladesh. I wanted to ask you to give us an update on two things. What is happening in the Constitutional Review Committee? You know, where are you at? What can we expect from that? That's question one. And question two is, I understand there's a movement to bring Hasina and others to justice through the court process. Can you give us a little update on what's happening there? Over to you.
Hello. These are very important questions, especially for the new government and also how Bangladesh will fare this challenging time. I will respond to the second question first. As you can imagine, within the span of basically 20 days, the regime killed around 2,000 people. Around 30,000 people are critically injured. A great many of them will never see the world again because of the pallet, and they are blind. So the demand for justice and accountability is very strong, reasonably. The government is trying to address that in two ways. One is providing medical care and support. Despite their effort, the response is not that adequate, and we have criticisms and frustration from the victims and the families. Government has established a foundation to provide support, and through this foundation, this family will be given future support in a very structured and mobilized way. So that will be the long-term approach, but initially, the government is responding to this crying need of the day. Regarding the trial, as you can know, I hope many of you know that on the 5th, she fled to another country, and actually she is hiding, and she has given a safe shelter in India. So it is not only her, a big number of the people, those who were part of these killing machines and the regime, those who were part of this extrajudicial killing and forced disappearances, people from military, people from many security agencies actually left the country and fled to another countries, mostly in India. So the government is now talking to Indian government and trying to actually bring them back. We have a repatriation agreement with India, so hope India will honor that, but there is no guarantee, because before that, India was heavily supporting this government. Despite our democratic aspiration, India was behind this government, and they did not bother about human rights or democracy to prevail in Bangladesh. So we have that tensions and the problem, but despite that, people are demanding that India will honor, and in due course they will return these culprits and perpetrators. The government has actually set up a committee to reform the laws by which we will be actually addressing this trial. We have International Crimes Tribunal in Bangladesh. We have a law which was actually set to try the criminals who were part of the crime that took place during 1971 in our liberation war. But that law is not up to the international human rights standard, and we understand that, so we are actually addressing to overcome that challenges. Hopefully the new amendments and the change will rectify that deficiencies. Regarding the constitution, as you can understand, that is a humongous work, and it requires huge consultations, discussions, trying to understand the aspirations, and also the challenge is how we can put all the stakeholders together, come to an agreement so that we have a very solid consensus on that. Constitution is not something that one segment of the people can impose their expectations or ideas on the other segment of the people. We are mindful of that, so we are undertaking a comprehensive level of consultations, discussions, but two important things that we are keeping in mind. One is the new constitution should set Bangladesh to a solid foundation on democracy and human rights. There is no compromise on that. The second thing is the constitution should uphold the spirit of these July revolutions, and this should be a constitution that the aspirations and hope of the new generation who led these revolutions, and it should be up to date so that it reflects also the new ideas and the new demand of the time, such as the climate change, the global environmental issues. Bangladesh is actually a climate vulnerable country, as many of you are aware of it. We are one of the frontline climate vulnerable countries. So there is a new dimension to it. So environmental laws, environmental values and principles will be one of the important considerations. So beside the digital rights and protections, these are the new things we are considering. All the considerations are centered around human rights, democracy, and the new generation, especially the very young people. In the last few decades, it will be their life that will be impacted, that will be nurtured and cultivated within the system of this constitution. So this is where we are looking at, and we urge your continuous support and solidarity in this journey to make new history in Bangladesh. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will also quickly, ask the questions to the rest of the panelists, including Fidas, if you are still online, just to check that you can hear us. Okay, question to you, Fidas, but I'll raise all three questions. Fidas, for you, can you tell us what's happening right now in Philippine politics? Because we see there's a tension between the president and the vice president, and the vice president, Duterte's daughter, is seeking to exit the government, or there's some kind of estranged relationship. Can you, kind of give us an update on what's happening there, and what can we expect to see in the next months or year? For Deepak in Nepal, one of the things that we often we take for granted in Nepal. Nepal is a hilly and mountainous area. People are distributed in a wide range, sometimes very successful. So what are some of the challenges that you face, or tell us, when it comes to youth mobilization, public education, and all that, because it's challenging, right, to move across regions. And for our colleague from Myanmar, the junta has been promising elections. And right now, they are promising elections in 2025. In fact, they've come up with a range of laws that will, of course, put them in an advantage. Could you, tell us a little bit about what's happening there in terms of what's their strategy, and what are your thoughts about, that development? So, Fidas, if you're there, maybe I'll start with you about the Philippines.
Okay, I thank you very much. And the Bongbong Marcos, the Marcos Jr., and Vice President, the daughter of former President Duterte, Rodrigo Duterte, they had an alliance, so they were called the Unity Team. But it's only, that was in 2022, and it's only now almost end of 2024, and it's not less than 2 years, and it's already estranged. And but now it's not anymore attention. It's really an all out, and it's not just about Marcos and Duterte, but of course they're allies. They're both from the elite dynastic family. So, like Korea, you're saying that the conservative and the progressive. Here, it's really the family dynastics and their allies who are really the one who are, fighting it out for the next control in 2028. That's where their eyes on. But right now, it's a very crucial congressional hearing, which has already resulted for the vice president being exposed for a lot of corruption. And so I think 7 of her executives are being now on the immigration lookout because they're not appearing in the hearing. And there's already a lot of evidence in the Commission on Audit about the irregularities, about confidential fund by the Vice President. And then on the other hand, the President also has been asked to already appear last week for the first time. He has no more immunity. His daughter has no immunity, but now also he has no immunity. He's not anymore the president. So he was, according to the political analysts, he gave some very damning admissions, which were all under oath. And he's actually now has a case against him at the International Criminal Court, ICC, and so that's where it is now. So there is a support from the victims, thousands of victims, that he will be, hopefully, that he can be really prosecuted and arrested together with his allies, because these were state policies which he ordered the police, which he said that, all these police commanders are all death squad commanders. That's what he said. So we're all very shocked. It's so the Korean telenovela is now buried under these public hearings. So in any case, it's very serious. So there's the anti-drug war hearings, which are revealing a lot of evidence under oath given by the president and several high-level people under him, including killings of mayors who were really against the drug war. So this is a real how do you say, revealing moment for us. He terrorized also the country in the last 6 years because he was so powerful, and so many are coming out. Who one exiled mayor had to come back, and he revealed that all about what happened. That he was cleared by the FBI. That he was really a drug lord, but that was used by Duterte. He used it not just for drug lord, but he also used it against his opponents. He used the weapon of anti-drug war against his opponents. So he weaponized, and of course, right now we still have anti-red tagging. Anyone who is critical of government can still be, detained. So there's still a lot of harassment on that level. So I think these are the important events going on now in our politics. Of course, there is a lot of starting already for the senatorial candidate elections in next year. So also a very important Senate who was jailed by Duterte, Laila de Lima, who also was investigating all his violations while he was mayor, that he was already put in jail right away, which is allies in the Senate and the Congress, and she just got her cases were all dismissed. 6 cases against her. So I think I will end there first. So there is, this is very, very dynamic going on now.
Okay, thank you very much.
I hope it answered.
Yeah, no, thank you. There was a comprehensive unpacking of the drama going on in the Philippines. So thank you for that. Over to you, Deepak. Yeah.
Thank you, James. Thank you. The major challenge we are facing is like believing in especially the people from Nepal, young people, believing in the systems. Believing in the systems, because within the short period of time, we see many changes. Like within the 70 years, Rana regime to multi-party to single party to ceremonial monarchy to now federal, we are here. And then nothing significantly changed. People are not, so that's how, 6 months right before the last elections, former journalist from the party, he is a young guy, and then they became a 4th largest party. That was a huge success for them. Within 6 months, they became a 4th largest party. But 2 weeks back, he was got arrested in the corruption. So that is the major challenge, the believing the people in the systems. We really going to see any change in the country, or we really like can believe like someone can do or something like this is the major challenge we have.
Also, one of the phenomena that we see is maybe the short rise, or I say a short rise of youth or youth-led party or movements, because they're often not sustained, you know. Even in the Malaysia case, you had a youth-led party, then after that it kind of fizzled out. So that's also something to think. So over to you on the election thoughts processes in Myanmar.
네, 군부의 선거에 대해서는 그거 말씀드리기 전에 제가 아까 발표했던 것 중에 우리 NUG는 비전이 무엇인지 또는 어떤 전략을 지금 하고 있는지에 대한 명확히 제시해야 되고 국민들에게 알려줘야 된다라고 말씀드렸죠. 그 이유는 바로 그 군부가 그 올해 초 정도에 진직을 시작했어요. 네, 그거 아시죠? 네. 이게 진직을 시작하고 또는 6개월간 비상사태라고 선언하면서 총사령관이 지금 권력을 빼앗겼잖아요. 그죠? 그래서 군부가 지금 메이언라인이라는 총사령관이 진직을 하겠다. 지금 시도를 하고 있거든요. 그러니까 우리 쪽에서는 그냥 무시하면 안 된다는 얘기예요. 군부는 하겠다라면은 진직도 지금 시작을 했고요. 이미. 그래서 진직으로 인해서 수많은 젊은 친구들이 전국 그 숲으로 들어가거나 아니면은 해외로 나가거나 그런 형상들이 있고요. 네, 하고 싶은 말이 뭐냐면은 진직은 설마 처음에는 미얀마 헌법상 없었거든요. 근데 갑자기 하겠다고 하는데 설마 안 하겠지 했지만은 실제 했어요. 그래서 지금 선거도 사실상 혁명을 지금 이끌어가고 있는 NUG도 그렇고 그 다음에는 우리 지금 PDF라고 하는 그 MZ세대 젊은 층의 우리 시민방위군 또한 라운드 테이블에서 앉아서 군부와 우리는 협상할 필요가 없다라고 지금까지 그 마음을 가지고 있거든요. 그렇게 한다면은 지금 군부가 진직도 하고 또는 선거도 한다면은 아마 선거도 조만간 멀지 않은 상황에서 어떻게든 조금 실행을 해나가지 않을까라는 생각을 해요. 왜냐하면은 총사령관 메이언라인이라는 그 사람이 5일 날에 중국으로 방문을 했어요. 지금까지. 지금 4년간 한 번도 그쪽에서 초대를 하지 않았었거든요. 그래서 미얀마와 중국과의 관계는 아마 미얀마 정치 쪽에 관심이 있으신 분들께서는 어떤 의미인지는 이해할 것 같고요. 그래서 메이언라인 총사령관이 5일 날에 4년 안에 처음으로 이걸 갔다라는 거 뭔가가 변화가 있지 않을까 싶기도 하고요. 이런 것들을 봤을 때에는 그래서 메이언라인 쿠데타 군의 입장에서 봤을 때 진지하겠다 그러면은 실행을 했고 또는 선거하겠다 그러면은 이끌어가면은 이쪽에서는 우리는 하고 있는데 그러면 우리 혁명 쪽에 있는 NUG는 그러면은 아까 제가 했죠. 우리에게 우리만 있다. 우리는 언젠가는 성공할 것이다라는 그런 구호에서만 그치지 말고 어떻게 싸우겠다는 거야. 어떤 비전이 있어. 어떤 전략을 가지고 있어라는 거를 좀 제시해야 되는데 아마 임시정부 입장에서도 다 줌 미팅에서만 그치잖아요. 그래서 미얀마 현장에서 없고 제3의 나라에 있는 것 또한 좀 약점이 아닌가. 그래서 종합적으로 하면은 그 선거를 한다면은 지금 우리 쪽에서는 물론 100% 다 부정하고 인정하지도 않고 어차피 정권을 빼앗은 군부였기 때문에 우리가 인정하지 않더라도 이런 진직도 실행하고 그런 거 보면은 좀 선거도 이 미얀마 총사령관이 해나가지 않을까라는 생각을 합니다. 그렇게 다 실행을 됐을 때 우리는 어떻게 해야 되는지 좀 뭔가가 좀 이끌어가는 리더가 필요한데 조금 부재하고 있는 거 아닌가 네, 그런 생각도 해봅니다.
Thank you very much. The floor is now open. We do have some time for comments or questions. Yes, sir. Can we have the mic up front here? For Chang Ho, can we start with this gentleman and then back for that? Yeah.
저는 아까 필리핀 스피커가 박영규 목사님, 그 폴프레리아, 그 다음에 뭐 통도 얘기도 하고 그럴 때에 나는 70년대, 80년대에 우리나라 민주화 운동을 조금 돕는 사람이에요. 그래서 나는 오랫동안 우리나라의 초대 인권대사를 한 7년을 했고, 그래서 지금 얘기인데 우리 한국의 우리나라의 민주화 운동을 할 때는 어느 의미에서 서양에서 민주화 운동은 중요하다, 한국의 민주화 운동은 중요하다 해서 도와주는 사람들만 있었는데, 오늘 제가 여기 2024년 우리 민주화 운동 기념사업의 글로벌 포럼 이걸 보고 아시아 민주주의의 미래, 연대를 위한 비전, 그래서 이걸 보면서 참 우리는 지금 이 뭐 필리핀, 미얀마, 방글라데시, 네팔, 그다음에 태국 다 들으면서도 한국의 민주화는 여러분들보다도 조금 나아졌다. 그건 사실이에요. 왜냐? 우리 이 KDF는 우리 국가기관이에요. 국가기관이 우리 7, 80년대 한국 민주화에서는 이런 일을 하질 않아서 그런 점에서 퍽 외로웠는데, 여러분들은 소위 아시아 민주주의, 나는 틀림없이 이제 우리 KDF가 남미도 갈 거고, 그 다음에 이제 그 아프리카도 갈 거고, 그 다음에 민주주의라는 것은 완전 무결하게 우리도 민주주의다 하는 사람들은 없지. 정도는 있지만 항상 민주주의는 우리 스스로가 알고 받고 또 조정하고 만들고 그런 점에서 사우스 솔리다리티라든지 이런 항상 민주주의는 인권처럼, 인권도 유엔에서는 인권의 정의를 내리지 않고 있잖아요. 그러나 이제 원칙 3가지만 딱 얘기를 하거든요. 그 원칙 3가지라는 게 1. 인권이라는 것은 inherent, 천부적이다. inalienable, 이건 불가양도적이다. 3. 유니버설하다. 그 외에는 인권의 정의를 내리지 않고 지금 인권을 하는 이유는 시대와 장소와 인간의 삶의 폭에 따라서 그때그때 인권은 더 갈고 닦아가지고 좋아지는 거니까, 우리들의 오늘의 이 포럼에서 나는 참 그 이제 떠나는 세대 중에 하나인데 정말 희망이 있다. 여러분들이 지금 처해 있는 거, 모하마드 유누스는 내하고 친구고, 아웅산 수지는 내가 가택연금에 만났을 때 2번이나 만났고, 그 네팔도 내가 여러 번 하고, 필리핀도 마찬가지고, 태국도 마찬가지니까 사정은 어렵더라도 우리들이 국제 연대를 탁 맺어서 한 발자국 한 발자국 가면 희망이 있다. 그래서 저는 제 3자로서 KDF에 참 이런 국제 포럼을 만든 거에 대해서 정말 이재호 이사장님께 감사를 드립니다. 고맙습니다.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for your comment and also your work for democracy. Yeah, very much appreciated. And back to the colleague behind. Yeah, the one with the mic. Yeah, thanks.
저는 독일 베를린에서 정치 교육 그리고 기억의 문화를 연구하는 이진이라고 합니다. My first question is addressed to you from Myanmar. 제가 한국말로 질문을 드리도록 하겠습니다. 왜 노예 흔은소 선생님께 미얀마 관련해서 제일 드리고 싶은 질문은 12년은 조금 넘게 미얀마에서의 민주주의 실험을 경험하셨던 청년 세대시기 때문에 여러 가지 그 NUG에 대해서도 그런 말씀을 비판적인 말씀도 하시는 걸로 제가 더 이해를 할 수가 있을 것 같습니다. 만약에 미얀마에서 다시 한번 민주주의 실험이 가능해지다면은 그때의 민주주의는 과거와 다를 것인지 또 어떻게 달라야 될 것인지에 대해서 본인의 생각을 좀 말씀해 주셨으면 좋겠고요. 시간이 좀 되신다면은 그 미래만이 아니라 현재 미얀마의 이 쿠데타 이후에 많은 수백만 명의 난민이 또 국내에서도 발생을 했지만 국외로 발생을 해서 태국 오늘 1세션에서 말씀하셨던 태국 또 방글라데시 등등 인접 국가에 많은 그 미얀마 난민분들이 지금 거주하고 힘든 삶을 좀 영위하고 계신데요. 그 인접 국가의 민주주의 상태, 태국을 포함해서 또 다른 한국, 일본 등의 더 조금 멀지만은 같은 아시아 국가들이 있는데요. 그 각 국가의 민주주의 상태가 현재 미얀마 상황에 난민분들의 처우를 포함해서 어떤 영향을 주고 있는지 뭐 간단하게 예를 들어서 말씀해 주셔도 좋겠고요. 그렇게 두 가지 질문을 드리겠습니다. 감사합니다.
네. 질문이 전문적인데 저는 정치자도 아니고 그렇지만은 지금 범의 혁명에 참여하고 있는 시민으로서 좀 저의 해안이 높지는 않지만은 제가 생각하는 다시 그 민주주의가 다시 시작하고 또는 미얀마가 민주주의 그거를 플러스해서 연방 민주주의 국가로 지금 지향하고 있잖아요. 그래서 그렇게 했을 때에는 과거에 있었던 그 부분적인 민주주의라는 민주주의의 앞에 뭐가 효용사가 있었잖아요. 그래서 과거에 있었던 그냥 이런 비유를 합니다. 문민정부와 군부가 동거 상태에서 우리는 민주주의의 경험을 했다. 그래서 불편한 동거한 상태라는 표현도 해요. 그래서 만약에 다시 전환전을 했다면은 우리는 두 번 다시 그런 부분적인 민주주의보다는 아주 완벽한 또는 연방 민주주의 국가. 그러니까 1947년도 이후에 소수민족 여기서 소수민족이라는 에트니스라는 그 단어도 제가 쓰기에는 좀 그렇긴 한데 미얀마에 있는 민족들 까친, 가야, 가옌치, 문, 버마, 라카인, 시안이라는 우리 이 민족들이 다 함께 꿈꾸고 있는 연방 민주주의 국가로 그런 군부라는 거 뭐예요? 국방을 하는 거잖아요. 정치에 개입해서는 안 됩니다. 그래서 과거에 2010년도, 2015년도에 있었던 미얀마의 부분적인 민주주의라는 것은 군부가 이거 나눠서 하자라는 그런 거였잖아요. 그래서 이제 앞으로는 아마 우리는 조금 정의를 위해서 지금 MZ세대가 싸워가고 있는데 좀 더디고 힘들지만은 정의가 언젠가는 실현될 거라고 생각합니다. 그때에는 군부와 함께 불편한 동거가 아닌 완벽한 연방 민주주의 국가로 좀 더디고 힘들더라도 그런 것들은 좀 바꿀 수 있지 않을까라고 생각합니다. 그것이 무엇이냐면은 물론 부분적인 민주주의는 완벽하게 좋은 거는 아니지만은 그의 영향으로 지금 PDF 된 MZ세대가 그의 효과였잖아요. 부분적인 효과로 했지만. 그래서 그때의 10년간 부분적인 민주주의의 체험이죠. 몸으로 부딪혔고 세계화에 하나가 되고 그리고 이번에 정글에 들어가서 싸우고 또는 각 자기가 전문적을 가지고 있는 그런 전문직을 가지고 싸우고 있는 이게 전환점이라고 저는 생각하거든요. 그렇기 때문에 그런 전환점에 있어서는 두 번 다시 그런 불편한 동거가 아닌 완벽한 연방 민주주의 국가로 좀 나아가야 되지 않을까. 그렇기 위해서는 아까 임시정부 우리 NUG가 좀 역할이 좀 커야 되는데 요즘에 우려되고 있는 것은 아무래도 지휘 통치를 멀리서 해야 하다 보니까 미얀마 내에서는 이거는 부가적인 설명이에요. 아까 좀 못해서 아쉬워서 못해드리자면은요. 그 미얀마의 지도를 상상해 보면 가오리처럼 생겼어요. 아시는 분도 있겠지만 이렇게 있는데 한 가운데에 제 고향은 고에도예요. 그 옆에는 사가인도라고 있는데 사가인도가 NUG가 모든 지역을 그거 통제하고 있다. 그러니까 장악하고 있다라고는 하는데 문제는 멀리서 지휘 통치를 하다 보니까 우리 내부 안에서의 그런 연대 또는 그런 연합들이 좀 있지 않은 거라는 그런 것도 있습니다. 그게 뭐냐면은 NUG가 그 PDF 말고 NUG 산하 국방부 산하에 빨리 끊을게요. 예, 30초만. 네, 그런 것들은 지금 행정기관이라든가 또는 공안기관 그런 것들은 지휘 통제에 있어서 NUG의 지휘 통제가 제대로 실행되고 있지 않다라는 그런 우려가 지금 퍼져나오고 있습니다. 저는 그거 되게 우려되고요. 그런 것들을 다 해결하지 않으면은 우리가 마지막으로 궁극적으로 꿈꾸는 연방민주주의는 죽어도 안 되거든요. 저는 그렇게 생각하니까 좀 힘들지만은 그런 여러 방면에서 노력해야 된다라고 생각하고요. 두 번째 질문에 답은 다른 분 나라도 해야 되니까 1대1로 만나되 말씀드리겠습니다. 네.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Within for that, and for anyone who has a follow-up question, please see her after we finish. With that, please join me in thanking the panel for their wonderful intervention. So please, a warm round of applause for the panel. And in the interest of time, I'm going to hand the microphone back to the organizer. Thank you. Please stay for the final remarks.
예, 그 대단한 그 투쟁을 잘 들었습니다. 존경한 마음을 드립니다. 오늘 이 시간이 아시아의 그 민주주의에 대한 경험들을 공유한 시간이 있기를 기대합니다. 오늘 긴 시간 함께해 주신 대변인 여러분께 감사드립니다. 그래요. 잠깐 이사장님 마침 인사 말씀드리겠습니다.
오늘 그 외국에서 오신 대표님들께 감사를 드립니다. 특히 어려운 환경에 있는 벵글라데시, 필리핀, 네팔, 미얀마 또 오신 나라들 태국, 필리핀. 태국, 필리핀. 예. 제가 지금 앉아서 느낀 거는 저는 30년간 민주화 운동을 하면서 5번을 감옥을 갔습니다. 10년 반을 감옥을 살았습니다. 그리고 7년을 수배를 당해서 도망을 다녔습니다. 그래도 한 번도 대한민국의 민주화를 포기한 적이 없었습니다. 내 친구들은 사형도 당했고 죽어도 나갔고 감옥에서 병들어 죽기도 했고 또 나와서 지금까지 병든 몸으로 사는 사람도 있고 그런 지난한 과정이 있었고 대한민국이 그래도 좋은 나라는 위대하다고 하는 것은 제가 45년 전에 국가보안법 방공법으로 지역 5년을 살고 나온 일이 있는데 그것이 45년 만에 대한민국 법정에서 무죄를 선고를 받았습니다. 이게 대한민국의 민주주의의 지혜력입니다. 그리고 우리가 민주화 투쟁할 때는 지금 여러 앉아있는 대표분들처럼 외국에 나가서 이런 말을 한다. 외국에 꿈도 못 꿨습니다. 그때는 아예 공항에도 출국 금지가 돼 있었고 출국 금지가 안 돼 있어도 운동을 하는 사람들 기관원들이 1대1로 따라다녔기 때문에 어디 밖에 나간다, 외국에 나간다 꿈도 못 꾼 시절이 있었습니다. 제가 이 말씀을 드리는 것은 그래도 우리나라는 지금 세계에 자랑할 만한 민주화 국가입니다. 권력자들이 정치를 잘하고 못하는 거는 그거는 정치를 잘하느냐 못하느냐의 문제고 대한민국의 민주주의는 더 이상 후퇴할 수도 없고 또 대한민국의 민주주의는 끝도 아닙니다. 민주주의는 시작도 없고 끝도 없습니다. 늘 시작이고 늘 끝나는 거 그렇습니다. 그래서 오늘 오신 외국에서 오신 여러분들도 저는 많은 여러분들의 말을 들으면서 아세안 민주주의의 미래는 참 밝구나. 그리고 이러한 여러분들이 어려울수록 이웃 나라들과 아세아의 민주주의 나라들과 연대를 더욱더 굳건히 하고 여러분들이 자국에 가서는 뭘 끝을 봐야 합니다. 뭐 민주 오늘 조금 하다가 뭐 그만두고 요 정도 됐으면 그만두고 이게 아니고 민주주의는 목표를 정했으면 끝까지 가는 것이 민주주의입니다. 내가 못하면 내 아들이 하고 내 아들이 못하면 내 손자가 하고 이렇게 해서 나라가 발전해 나가는 거니까 지금 어려움에 처해져 있는 여러분들 나라에 대해서 연대를 표하고 계속해서 우리의 대한민국의 민주화 운동의 과정을 우리가 전할 수 있으면 전하고 또 경험을 공유할 수 있으면 공유하고 그렇게 해서 아세안 민주주의가 끝내는 10년 후, 20년 후는 개별 나라들이 아니라 아시아 전체 민주주의가 상당히 아주 가치 있는 그리고 아시아 전체의 민중들이 정말 행복하게 살 수 있는 그런 아시아 국가를 만들었으면 좋겠다. 그 점에서 여러분들이 끝까지 투쟁하고 헌신해 주길 바랍니다. 이렇게 오늘 저희들 포럼에 참석해 주신 외국에서 오신 대표 여러분들께 진심으로 감사와 애정을 표합니다. 감사합니다.
이것으로 포럼을 전체 마치도록 하겠습니다. 대단히 감사합니다.